So who's your role model in this field?
So it's a very, very tough question because this field, even though it's been there, like it existed for a while now, but the thing is, you can't really, like, no one exactly was a biosystems engineer before. Like, people, I feel like it's a relatively new field. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think I should say a lot of people because a lot of people shaped the path to this like field for me. So it started with
Mm-hmm.
my dad, who is also an engineer. He's a mechanical engineer. So I, from like from my childhood, I wanted to be an engineer, like at any cost. That was how I started, like, okay, this is where I want to be. But I wasn't like sure, okay, engineer is all I know. I didn't think which field or
The
whatever.
subdivision,
Yes.
yeah.
So it starts with that. But after that, it was every professor I came across who like shaped the direction, like by giving me projects that got me interested in this in the first place. So I feel like it's a very tough question to answer. Also, because this field, the one that I'm working in, that is nanobiotechnology or the nanodiagnostics field, is a very relatively new field. So I can't really pinpoint or say, okay, this particular figure is the one I should, like, I call my role model or, you know. So it's mostly my PI or my professors who like guide me through this. That I would say they are my role models, like how they are carrying things forward. And yeah, that I should say they are my role models.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I can agree, but I mean, for me, it's very clear in my field. So, yes, it differs a lot based on your field, and yeah. And also, so what is a typical day of a biosystems PhD student?
So, typically, I would start my day with going to the lab, working on my first making my nanoparticles. That's where I start with things. In between, so this past year, I also had to do some courses for my program. This is like required courses for the department and like generally for the program. And being even though I had done so many courses in my masters, I still had to finish some more credits. So I can get
Yes.
transferred, like I can get my credits transferred from masters, right? So I
Okay.
still had to, yeah, I can do that here, but I still had to finish some more courses. And biosystems engineering is very intense on courses. It's like it's not just you spend like a 1 year or a couple of years. Sometimes you might have to spend more. Probably the entire. You might actually be doing courses like your entire program. It depends. So in my case, because I already finished my masters, I have some courses like transferred, but I also had to do some more. So yeah, I had classes to attend at least 10 hours per week. So that means like at least 2 hours would go for classes on a typical day. And again, after classes, I usually come back to lab and work. But apart from that, I feel like this is very important for students, even PhD students. It's not just lab and classes all the time. There should be something outside of lab and classes, like some way or platform where you can go and express, or you can talk to other students like you and share your thoughts. And like maybe it's not just like releasing your stress and everything, but also when you talk to the other people, you might actually get some good ideas for your own research. So sharing thoughts and ideas. So
Yeah.
sometimes I hang out with my friends in the department and we like talk about our research, and they may have their topics are entirely different, but but then having like a third perspective like on your research, like they are also in this field, right, at least in the same department, so they kind of understand what you're doing. So if you like tell them, okay, this is the problem that you're facing in your research, they might actually have some ideas, and similarly they'll be sharing their thoughts, and then you'll give them some ideas and things. So that is important. So I do that sometimes. And Usually we do that over ice cream. We get some ice cream and we just like
Oh, interesting.
and last year I was also on this board called International Student Advisory Board. So it's mostly for international students. We discuss what are the issues happening for international students, what are their requirements, how can the university improve their experience here, and things like that. So I was a board member, and I was like this I had like I had to interact with all other international students and the international office about this, like talk about what we expect from each other and things like that. So
Hmm.
that was like an extracurricular thing, I can say, but it was also very like it's an eye opener. Like you get to know what other people are feeling or thinking, and it's like it's a good way to interact with other people from very diverse background.
Yeah.
So I do that once a week. So yeah, these are usually my activities, and I'm also the ambassador for my department. So sometimes I interact with those like our other students as well, and try to like so it's mostly trying to organize events for like students who want to join the department or who don't know anything about biosystems engineering, and you want to show them like this is what it is. If you're interested, like you can join and things like that. So yeah, those things are what I usually do.
It's
on
interesting that you're also networking a lot through this. I mean, because PhD is not just about going to the lab, and yeah, I mean, it definitely has more to it that we can learn in terms of soft skills or science communication. It could be through any way, but yeah, I mean, we need to find what fits right for us, right?
Exactly.
So. Mhm. So it's good to know that you're doing actually quite a lot apart from just the lab work. So that's always good to keep ourselves busy because if we are free, I mean, as a PhD student, we can't be free. But there are moments when you just don't want to do anything, and then you sit and worry about these things. So, right?
Absolutely. Like when you don't do anything, you start panicking, like, oh my God, I'm wasting all these productive hours. So,
Yeah. And
uh,
and that does not make sense at all, but still like the brain is somehow conditioned to work like that.
work like
And
that.
and yeah, I think this just happens to all of us. So the best part is to keep occupied, maybe
Yeah.
just go for drinks with friends or whatever, but yeah, just to keep occupied,
Right.
yeah.
Yes, that's important. And also, I think it is even otherwise, if you think about it, it's important that we have that discussion and all that. And that's a way to network. And networking is very, very important,
Is
even
the
as
most
PhD
important. Yeah.
students.
Yeah, I would also say, like, I mean, even if we have to thrive in this field, then it comes down to like 60 to 70% of networking, and the rest of it is what we do in the lab. So,
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
true. All right. So, we're talking about networking. Also, you mentioned about talking to friends and all. But anyhow, so we have this question which connects somehow. So, what sort of support you seek from your friends and family who are not from the academic background?
Hmm. Yes, so that's a very good question. So far, like I said, my parents have been very supportive.
Mhm.
They understand, yes, I work most of the time, but so I also have like a fixed time when I call them, so they know that okay, I'm still alive here. I'm not like I'm not missing, or I'm not like stuck in the lab or anything. But yeah,
Yeah.
my parents have been very supportive, so I'm actually thankful for that. And I think with friends, it depends. Like people, most of my friends, like they are also doing PhD, so they understand how uh, the situation is. Like how Shelley would understand my situation. I would understand your situation.
Yes, that's why we are having this sarcastic laugh here.
Right, exactly. So yeah, some of at least most of them are PhD students, so they understand, or they have been a graduate student before, and they even being a master student, they know like okay, this is how the schedule is, or this is how research goes. So I'm thankful that they already know what it is, but there are some people who haven't even experienced all this, and then I'll have to explain, okay, so I've been doing so and so, and that's why I can't, like make it on time for, maybe calls or video calls with friends, like people back home and all those. But yeah, one thing I can say, like what I want them to understand is maybe I'll be like completely stuck in my own work sometimes, that I may not actually see or understand what's going on around me. Sometimes this can happen.
I agree. This happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like in those situations, I hope that they'll still reach out to me and be like, "Hey, are you still there? Like what's going on and things." Because I may not be actually in a position to like. I'm not saying this as a bad thing. Like I feel like I might feel guilty sometimes saying, "Okay, I think you should just text me when you don't find anything, like no answer from me." But it's the truth actually. Like once you're like into something or you're doing your research on something, then you just forget what's happening around you. So if you want me to still talk, I still want to talk. It's just that I'm just like stuck on some topic. So that time I would expect them to at least, like, if you want to know if I'm alive, like just text me, I'm fine. I'll definitely respond. So that's the kind of understanding I want from them. That's what I expect. But apart from that, I think I'm not so. I mean, I feel like they all understand, okay, PhD is going to be taxing and it's going to be a demanding thing to do. So,
Yeah.
so it's not bad. It's going well for me for now.
Yeah, and I mean, again, you remember, like we were talking about that until or unless we are in somebody's shoes, we don't understand how it is. So, I mean, even through these interviews, we can just give or tell what our experiences and insights are. But until unless you come to the PhD, you will never know what does it
Right.
feel like to do
Have,
a
yeah,
PhD.
it's not the same until you feel it or you experience it.
Yeah, yeah. And every PhD is so unique. So what I would tell you about my PhD would be so different than what you would tell about your PhD because there are so many different factors that are influencing each of our PhDs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
Right. So let me move on to the next question. Um, so, how was your PhD interview like? Maybe you want to tell the audience about the feeling that you had during your interview, or the type of questions that were posed to you, or yeah, whatever you want to share about that.
Okay. So I had like I think a total of 3 interviews. Two when I first applied and I got my PhD program in Michigan State. So that time, in all 3 cases, I actually did not have to set up the interview. Like, I don't know, like this just happened, but through my profile, I don't know what. They actually, like the professors themselves, sent an email asking, "Do you want to like talk because I'm interested in your application?"
Mhm.
So then I had 2 interviews set up that way for the first program, which was in Michigan State, and yeah, like throughout the thing, I was still thinking, will I get to do what I want to do? Like that was on my mind, like the entire time. It went well. The interview was good. So both were professors in the same department. One was
Mhm.
a new professor, so she had a lot of like ideas, and she was just joining the department. So she was just talking about her own like project and what she expects and what like what direction she wants it to go and things like that. So she was mostly talking about that new setup and everything, but she was also like asking what my background was and how it would fit with her projects and things. And the second interview was with a professor who was already there for like 20 something years. So she was like a senior professor, and she was the one I was working with. Like I chose to work with her because of her experience and everything. So she asked me about my papers. Like I had like a paper published during that time through my undergrad. So she asked me about that, and she asked me about what did I do like after my BTech or my undergrad. So what was my work in IIT? What was the nature of work and things like that? Mostly like technical questions like how did I end up, choosing this research topic and things like that. So it went well, and in both cases they were interested in getting me on their projects, but I chose to go with the second one because that was the nanobiosensors lab. So it
Mhm.
kind of connected with what I wanted to do, or at least at that point it was. So I chose to go with that. And for this, the interview for this university that I'm currently in, that was also in the like along the same line. So he like saw my profile, and since I had the nanotechnology background, he wanted to, because this lab is also again nano biosensors lab. So he was interested again, and then I again had like an interview with him, and this was also mostly technical. Like he asked what was my background and things, and at that time I was still deciding on whether I should join this program, the scholar program that I was talking about, like 3 months before I finished my masters. So then I had like, this time I was more prepared. Like I knew what I should ask or what I should expect in an interview, because I already had that experience before. And I also, like, through that master's program, I had some questions of my own, like, okay, so do these things meet my expectations? So I
True.
was very I was I was happy that I was able to like communicate those questions with him, like in terms of how long would this program or this project be, or what are your expectations for this project. And I asked him questions like, what is this topic specifically, like what he's offering me, and things like that. So that I feel like I was more mature in the questions that I asked him this time. So I feel like that helped, and it helped to be a little bit more honest about what I wanted. So yeah, that was
I
my.
would say this is such an important point because when we apply for these positions, we often just want to get somewhere. And again, I mean, I'm also repeating certain points, but this is just that it is so relevant that I have to repeat it. Not in this interview, but I have repeat. I mean, over the interviews that I took, I am sort of repeating these points, and I just this is not like I'm preparing from before, but then throughout the discussion it comes out to be like that. So I really like the point here that you mentioned that you knew what you wanted for yourself, and that is so important because when we are applying for positions, it is a possibility that we get into a lab, but then somehow we just get there because just for the sake of telling others that we got into a university or we got into a position, but later we are just suffering there. So it's not about telling somebody that you got through something, but it's for yourself where you want to be, and if it is like a right match for you. Like I always call it like PhD is like a tiny marriage because it's almost like it has to be compatible and all those factors they literally like actually have
I
to be.
totally agree with that, because I consider PhD as a tiny marriage, and your research is like your spouse or something, because you're literally living with that, yeah, your that entire period, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it is. And
It's almost like your baby or whatever. It's like your brainchild. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Whatever we want to take it as. Yeah.
yeah.
So, um, I want to ask you here. So, what are your plans for after PhD? Maybe this is too soon to ask for because we are still in our first year of PhD.
Yeah.
You are also like, I mean, you were more experienced because you had like that 1 year in a different lab, then another in different lab. Like now you're working in another lab.
Yeah.
But do you already have plans for your PhD, or do you still want to like take your time and decide?
So I know very clearly that I don't want to be in academia.
Ah, okay,
The
okay.
only thing I know for now, but I feel like I want to have an industrial experience, because so far I've been in, I mean, whatever I did, I haven't like had any like industrial experience in between, at least as an internship or anything like that. So I want to know that side of things as well. So I feel like being in academia would just stop me from getting that experience, or at least like after my PhD, trying to get a postdoc, I would still be here. So I don't mind. I mean, if it comes to that, I'll obviously have to. I will take that up. But I prefer to move into industry after this. So be a research scientist maybe and have some industrial experience or exposure and like come to know about what exactly happens in a real life situation. Like, well, how does your research apply there? So yeah, that is my interest, and eventually, I think for the long run, I would say I would want to slowly move away from just research and like start communicating science, like
Wow,
maybe.
that's interesting. And we are actually doing a little bit of that now.
Yeah,
So
we are doing that a little bit. So I'm glad I got this opportunity to like actually talk about it. So yeah, hopefully like be at least a science communicator in a small way, like at least write stuff or like just generally educate not just people in the field but also like the general public. They should also understand science. They should also understand why people do this a certain way.
that is so important. I mean, I'm also, I would say I'm also a strong supporter of that because that is what we need to actually share and make people aware of. Because even with this whole pandemic, I have realized that it's not about being rich or poor. It's more about what your mentality is.
Exactly.
So you can like make somebody understand something until and unless there's a shift in their mentality. So it's all about the perspective. It's all about what somebody wants to make them aware about the situation or not, or how willing we are to accept something. So
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like people should be a little bit more open to science and the what we are trying to tell them. Like,
yeah.
and I feel scientists are also a little lacking in that area. They tend to be all technical, but I feel like they should also come down to the point where everyone can understand science and
Mhm.
can understand why this is happening. So I
That's
want
like
to be in that kind of
yeah.
direction.
Yeah, but our generation is trying to do something on this because we see a lot of people on Instagram just trying to actually mingle with normal people, show them that we are normal people. We are not, just some crazy bunch of people who have like,
Lab coats
crazy
and
hairstyles
and
and we also look like normal people. Like if you're walking in the city, maybe people won't be able to spot you that you're a scientist,
yeah.
but in the lab when we are there, yes, we have to wear lab coats and yes, we have to wear our lab gears.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's true. And nowadays it's become much better. People are understanding it's more important to communicate it better.
Yes. And also with the increase in social media, increased usage of the social media, people have better options of like connecting, like we are. I mean,
Yeah.
you're in the US, I'm in Europe, but we're still able to conduct this, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. So let's move on to the next question. So, what are the tips that you would like to give the new PhD students? And I would actually want to couple the next question with it is that what should be kept in mind while applying for PhD position? Because I think these two questions are sort of like they address the same issue. So,
Yeah. So the tips for new PhD students, I think you should know what you want. That's the most important thing.
yeah, this is the highlight of your episode.
Yeah. Highlight of okay, yeah, you can say that. Highlight of my episode is you should know what you want. Like if you do not, if you have any confusion on what topic you want to work on, I think that's going to be a little bit of a struggle then initially at least for you because unless you know what you want, you're not going to be able to go in a good direction in your PhD program. And I think direction is all it matters a lot. You might end up wasting a lot of time if you are still like confused about what you want to do and things like that, and that's just going to extend your program. And even after like not even after all that, and if your heart is not in it, then it's like
Mm.
you will eventually feel like giving up because of all the number of years and time you're spending on this. So be patient. That's the next thing. Be very patient. You need to have some patience. Research is not like an
All
overnight thing
PhD will teach you to be patient.
yes, it will teach you to be patient. Yeah, so it's not like you'll get good results like or these results that you're expecting like every single day whenever you do experiments. Sometimes it may fail, so you have to be like patient, and you need to understand that
Why it is failing.
yes, why it's failing. That's also a learning experience actually. So when you
Mhm.
know this is why it's failing, then you won't do the same mistake again. So mistakes are good. Don't take it as a bad sign, or oh, it's I'm not able to do this. I'm not a researcher, or things like it can happen. Imposter syndrome. That that's
Yeah.
that is common in PhD students, and I think everyone goes through this problem at some
Yes.
point. So I
Yeah. Yeah. True. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think understanding that it's not just, it's not or not that you're not capable of doing it. I mean, the fact that you're even in a PhD program means that you are capable.
Capable of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just have to be patient. That's the thing for the new students. And of course, you have to go through the guidelines of the department. Make sure you're also keeping that in mind, not just doing your research. You have like you're doing things according to the timeline and all that. So
That is so important. Yes.
or you'll not graduate. Yeah, but
Yeah.
just joking. But the thing is that is also important anyway. So yeah, that is for the new students, and for like people who are applying to PhD programs, the same thing actually. You need to know what you want. It's important you have like at least an outline of what you're interested in, so that you can like try to look at topics that might match your interest, and then you can go according to that. You can apply in those areas, because if you're having a broad minded attitude, it's going to be hard. um, and I think so it's also you need to know that patience is the key. Before you start or before you even think of applying, you need to like think about how long this might take, or what are the consequences of once you get into this program, what you want to achieve after during this program, and even after that, why do you think a PhD would help you in your career? Like if there are cases where you don't need a PhD and you could do an amazing job in the industry. So it depends on the field. Like if you can do something without a PhD, why not? You also have to think
Yeah,
about
true.
it.
You don't have to always have this part of it. Yeah. I mean, if you can bypass it or if you don't want it, then you don't have to do a PhD. Yeah. It's not like a must to, yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, have the right goals for why you want to do this PhD. I think that is important. Like if you think yes, this PhD is going to give you more knowledge on a particular topic and you want to be an expert in the field, yes, this is a good platform. This is how you learn. But if it's like, okay, I think a PhD is just for me to have like a doctor in front of my name. No, that's not that. I'm just giving that
No,
as
that's not the right reason. No,
yes.
not at all. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so such reasons are not going to be, I don't think that is a very good motive for PhD. So I think that they should understand, the new people should understand that before you apply for those programs. And
Yeah.
yes, definitely do a lot of research even before applying so that you know what you know the kind of department you want to be in. Like what I did was a mistake at first, but I think you should do like these new students should do their research before they like decide on a program they want to apply. They need to make sure that they have their interests aligning.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely agree on this because when we are actually new and we are looking for these positions, we don't have this much patience. We literally don't. So we just want to, I mentioned this again that we just want to get somewhere. And
Yeah.
then we literally like try shooting in the blind. And I'm sure we all would have done this, most of us, that,
Yes.
like our friends are getting into different universities, different programs, and then we start comparing. So one thing I want to add here is that stop comparing also, because you need to define your own path. And if you start comparing, then you lose the sight of your path, and
Yes.
then it is just the end of your journey already before you start beginning it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's actually like a preachy session, but just we just have to share what we have gone through so that you guys don't repeat it. And
Right.
also like with the why, I really like that because in one of my morning vlogs also I've discussed about this, is that if you have a right what and why, then you really that keeps you going, because each morning you're going to ask yourself, why am I doing this?
Right.
And that will keep you going until the end of your PhD. So it's
Right.
not just about getting into the program, it's just the beginning actually.